Hi everyone, this is Daryl and welcome back to Hypeword, or just welcome if you're new here. Today I'm going to be reviewing Old Man's War by John Scalzi. Old Man's War is the first in the Old Man's War series by prolific science fiction author John Scalzi. It follows John Perry, who, upon turning the age of 75, signs up with the enigmatic Colonial Defence Force. No one on Earth knows much about them except that they only recruit people over the age of 75 and have more advanced technology than anyone else has on Earth. This technology, it's widely known, can transform the elderly recruits, restoring their lost youth. But in return, the Colonial Defence Force demands 2 years of hazardous service in space, defending humanity's colonies from hostile aliens. The story in Old Man's War is both unique and also, in a way, super tropey. Not in a bad way though. It's unique in that it puts a fresh spin on an arguably overutilised trope that we see a lot of in military sci-fi. Trope usually goes as follows. Naive recruit signs up for military service, recruit outshines rest of squad in training, causing conflict, recruit learns the hard lessons of war through violence and death on the front lines, recruit has epiphany on the pointlessness of war and becomes wiser as a result. Throw in some exploding alien bugs, some squad camaraderie and a will they won't they love interest, and you've got yourself a pretty good story. It's not a bad trope, in fact it can be done really well, and you see this in many superbly written military sci-fi such as Ender's Game, and in classics such as The Forever War and Starship Troopers. What I really enjoyed about Old Man's War is that even though you're witnessing a bunch of old people start their new lives, they almost come across as naive as children, excited and scared at the same time. It's a unique twist on this trope and it's done really well. We follow John Perry as he becomes younger, discovers what it means to have not only youth with the mind and wisdom of a 75-year-old, but also youth in a body that is stronger and better and more alien than he remembered when he was young the first time around. As a character, he is extremely likeable, but not in an annoying way. Usually when writers make their protagonists too likeable or too squeaky clean, I get bored of them really quickly because to me they come off as two-dimensional. However, despite John Perry being extremely likeable, damn him, he also has a sense of humour which did a great job of pulling me along with him, so instead of being bored by this character, I started rooting for him, which was a really sneaky thing for Scalzi to do. Overall, John Perry is a simple man who begins the story wanting to recapture his youth and feel adventure again, but his motives ultimately change as the story goes on and he inevitably begins to want to make choices that to him feel morally right. While I like this character and invested emotionally in him and his story, I'm not sure if John Perry alone would be enough to pull me through the whole Old Man War series, which consists of 6 books. So it was a good move on Scalzi's part to make the Old Man's War series a series of standalone yet interconnected stories. In the typical style of John Scalzi, everything about Old Man's War is fun and it's enjoyable to read in a not too taxing kind of way. That's not a dig, it's just the tone and style of his writing. Even when he's up the stakes, it never really tips into hard sci-fi with a hard-hitting grittiness that a lot of military sci-fi tend to opt for in terms of tone. I'm not saying one style is better than the other, in fact I enjoyed the lightness of Old Man's War and found it generally fun and funny to read, whereas I've read other more gritty military sci-fi that would be classed as hard that I didn't get on with at all. Scalzi has his own tone and style of writing which I think pervades across many of his books, at least the ones that I've read, especially Red Shirts and The Collapsing Empire. One thing I would mention in this, if I were to put my writer's hat on, is the use of gratuitous exposition in conversation. While a bit info-dumpy, I personally didn't find that it hindered the story, though I have read a few reviews where the whole book was trashed because of it. In a book that's less fun, it might have been an issue for me, but Scalzi does it well, and while technically not what you might call best practice for writing, there aren't really any hard and fast rules, and if it works, it works. So, as you might expect from a military sci-fi about war and stuff, the main themes of the book revolve around, well, war and stuff. Old Man's War is apparently a conscious homage to Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein, which was written in 1959 during the height of the Cold War, and is arguably as much of a political essay as it is a novel, commenting on everything from communism to, quote, moral decline. It's a book that has been identified as militarism, a part of US tradition in US science fiction that assumes violent conflict and militarization of society are inevitable and necessary. I bring this up because when you compare Old Man War to something like Starship Troopers, which pretty much sets the template for military sci-fi, you have to ask, is it bringing anything else to the table in a literary sense? In a way, yes. You could argue it comments on how, particularly in Western societies, the elderly are often disregarded and cast aside. Even in sci-fi literature, you don't get many 75-year-old protagonists. In another way, however, no, it doesn't bring anything new to the table, not in terms of militarism, but as I said, it's a fun read and not everything has to be allegory. It's a book for anyone that loves a good space romp and wants to get swept along for the ride with a group of engaging characters. Don't expect it to change your life, but absolutely expect to have a blast reading it, as long as you don't take it too seriously. With that in mind, I gave Old Man's War 4 stars out of 5. So that's it for my review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts about Old Man's War in the comments and whether you'll be picking this up anytime soon. Don't forget to like the video if you like the content and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. We talk about all things books that are sci-fi, fantasy and sometimes horror here. So if that is your thing, please stick around. Until next time guys, happy reading.
Run.